Okay, so the star of today's show is the Speco F-60 volt ohm meter. This is something that I picked up at an estate sale, and the truth is I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about the company, and I certainly don't know anything about this particular model. I thought I would just pick it up for my kids. I'm trying to get my kids interested in electronics, and I thought, well, I'll get them an ohm meter. We can kind of talk about the basics of ohms and voltage, and it also measures amps. Check batteries to see if they're any good. So this is interesting to me from that perspective. But what really captured my attention was that it doesn't look like it's ever been used. I mean, this thing, it has almost no miles on it. It looks to me like it's been used maybe 3 times and then put back in the original packaging. I mean, this must be from the 80s or 90s. So this thing's been sitting in a box now for 20 years. So it kind of intrigues me to see, how it measures up and how it does, and if they made a go at putting together a decent ohm meter here. Oh, it has 1% stabilized resistors. So it looks like it's not just a piece of junk. 1% resistors or something. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see how it measures up. Okay, so when I get something like this, the first thing I want to do is research it on the internet. So I ran a search, you can see here on the Speco F-60, and what did I get? Or actually, more surprisingly, what didn't I get? Which is I didn't get any hits. I don't think I have ever run a search on a product on the internet and received no hits. I don't see anything on here on the Speco F-60. I do see this F-72 here in this first listing. And actually I did a little bit of research on eBay, and I was able to find an old listing on eBay. So here's the old original, well, that's not the original listing, that's just the sort of the stub. If we go to the original listing, what's that, about $12.99? So it's about $20. And oh, all the pictures are gone. So this is just some old stub that's hanging around, sort of, it's sort of like debris on the internet. And the same thing with this other listing back here. We look at the just some marketing debris when you look at this other listing back here as Speco Technologies. Yeah. So there's what it evolved into eventually, the F-72. But there's nothing here on how to order it. I guess you could call these people on the phone. So that confirms that it's something from the pre-internet days, right? This is the F-60, probably from the 80s or 90s. But we may never know, because we may not find any other information on this thing. And it's sort of, it's rare, apparently, but not very valuable. And that's not surprising, right? It's an analog multimeter. And there are some limited applications where apparently people want analog multimeters because they can watch the needle swing back and forth. But let's get real. What people really want is a digital multimeter, and you can get those on eBay for about $5 shipped. So this thing really doesn't have a lot of value. But I didn't get it because of the value. I got it because I wanted to see if it worked. So let's crack it open and see what it does. Okay, so here we have the Speco F-60. Let's open it up and see how it does. Now this thing looks like it's been in the packaging for maybe, I don't know, it's probably been opened a few times, but it looks like it's been in here for like 15 years. It's sort of a mystery to me as to why somebody would keep something like this in the original packaging like that. Oh, we do have a manual. That's good. We have some specifications. There's a schematic. That could prove to be very helpful. But, I want to see if this thing works. So let's go ahead and hook it up. Let's get these. These test leads don't look like they're very high quality test leads. They feel kind of plasticky. Oh, they do snap in though. So that seems like that's some indicator of quality. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on multimeters, but it seemed like that was something that was somewhat helpful there. Okay, that's in. Okay, and if it's an ohm meter, that means it should give us full deflection when we... Yeah, it's not doing anything. Let's try a different scale. Nothing. I'm not getting... Yeah, it's not moving at all. Not too surprising. I mean, it either doesn't have a battery or the battery's been in there for 15 years. So let's try volt scale and see if we can get any volts. We have a nice battery here. Let's give it a shot. See what we can get. And nothing. All right, let's try. There's a battery test setting as well. So we get on that. Not getting anything. Okay, let's try. Well, there's really not a lot else to try. Get back on that setting there. We get it to do something. It's just not moving. I wonder if it's stuck between. Let's see if we can get it to at least act like it's doing something. Like these. Push the leads in again and let's give it another shot. Here we go. Moment of truth. Absolutely, totally nothing on that. That's kind of frustrating. Maybe we try the voltage again. Hey, it did something! Look at that! Whoa, wait a second. Hold on. It's okay. It's sort of. Oh boy. It's let's try that. Let's try that tester function again, which I assume measures amps. Oh, there now. Look at that. It's. I don't know what this thing is doing. It's sort of. Oh, there you go. Okay, so it's intermittent, erratic, I think, and nothing on ohms. So now what do we do with this thing? That's the question I'd like to pose. So let's go ahead and take an internet survey on that and ask people, what do you think we should do with this Speco F-60? And then we'll come back with the results. Okay, so let's take a look at a recap of where we are with the Speco F-60. It's a new old stock-ish analog multimeter. Well, at least it's in the original packaging. It's obscure. Yeah, it's very obscure because we haven't been able to find anything about it except that one sold on eBay a couple years ago for about $20. That's pretty obscure. Ohm meter has no response. We didn't see any movement of the needle. And on the voltmeter we had an erratic response. So yes, the needle moved, but the needle didn't move in any predictable fashion. And I think we can say the same thing about the ammeter. And so it's kind of sketchy at this point. So what do we do with this thing, this obscure, sketchy analog multimeter? So I put that question out there, and here's what we received. And I always look forward to these answers because people come up with really interesting things on the internet. You never know what you're going to get. New battery. Yes, I think it needs a new battery. That's a good place to start. I don't know that that'll fix the problem with the voltmeter, but that seems like a good place to start. Chuck it in the trash. Well, you're not the first person to suggest that. And yeah, I think a lot of people, they would get this thing, they would take it home and it wouldn't work and they would throw it away, or at least hopefully e-cycle it. And you know, my background's in software, so I don't know a lot about hardware, but I think we can figure out how to make a multimeter work, right? So let's at least try to fix it. Recap it. Well, you know, that's interesting. I guess that's like what you would do to an old guitar amplifier. Like you would take out the electrolytic capacitors and put in new ones. I'm not sure that that applies here. But again, I don't know a lot about hardware, so maybe there is an electrolytic capacitor in there. And yeah, if it's old, maybe we should replace it. Fix the switch. Now that's onto something, right? I mean, that's the issue here. We move the switch and it goes up and down. It's probably that, or maybe the leads are bad or something. And I don't know how to fix the switch, but that seems like the place to start. Sell on eBay as vintage. Well, yeah, it's definitely vintage. But come on, let's at least try to fix the thing before we go off and try to sell it. Hey, idiot, the internet was around in the 80s and 90s. Well, you always get a heckler, and this guy's... I get it. Okay, so I said the thing was pre-internet, and this person's saying, oh, the internet was around in the 80s and 90s. Well, you know what? I don't know when this thing was for sale. And, pal, there's no need to call me idiot. All right, now I know what, I guess I stand corrected. I mean, I was posting Usenet newsgroup things in 1985. So yeah, the internet was around, but I think you know what I meant, right? It's not on Amazon. It's not featured on any web page. Okay, so it's like pre.com boom. All right, anyway, I don't know the date. If anybody knows the date, I'd be happy to know. Perform an exorcism. Okay, well, I did buy that in a estate sale. But I don't have any evidence of any evil spirits inhabiting the multimeter. So I guess I do reserve the right to change my mind. I might curse it at some point if I can't get it to work. But I think we're just going to open it up and try to troubleshoot it. So let's try that first. Okay, so let's open this thing up and see what's inside. Looks like we have a single Phillips head screw there. Take these leads out. I also picked up these screwdrivers at the estate sale, so those could be handy. In fact, that's exactly what we need right there. And let's get this thing opened up. Oh, that was easy. Okay, wow, that resistor looks like it's a double-sided board. Some of these resistors look a little funny. There's some flux here on the board. Yeah, okay, so it's and those resistors look like they might actually be precision resistors. And we have the battery, so we'll get the battery out. Oh boy. Oh boy, and as can be expected, we have lots of corrosion there. And we have some corrosion on the device itself, and so that's a problem. So that's something to start with right there. So I think I'll go ahead, clean that up, put in a new battery, maybe do some more tests, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so we have a battery in it now, and some of the behavior here is a little interesting. At one point, look at that. There's something quite peculiar going on with this. So what I have it hooked up to a potentiometer right now to measure the ohms, and it's fluctuating quite a bit. Look at that. I'm not turning the potentiometer. Look, here are my hands, okay? I am not turning the potentiometer, and yet it's moving all over the place. So we have some kind of another problem other than the battery, as we suspected. So to do a little more testing to see what we can come up with. Okay, so here is the back of the multimeter. Inside, you can see this is the switching mechanism. I don't know what the name of this would be. They look like circuit board traces or contacts or something, and that's the switching mechanism. It's built into the board. It's a single-sided board. It has components on both sides, but it's a single-sided board, and this rotates around there. And then I just kind of cleaned it off with some rubbing alcohol, and I don't know if you can see it's yellow. There was actually some flux. These solder connections are so close to these traces here that there was some of the flux was on there, and I was able to get it off. So I'm not sure, but that might have contributed to what we're looking at here as far as the erraticness of the contact. But now I don't know if I've made it worse, because maybe that was some sort of conductive grease or something on there. I don't know what I'm getting into here. So I'm trying to figure out, what should I put on this in order to make it both be lubricated and also to have electrical contact. What was that? Huh. Anyway, so I'm looking for something that would both lubricate it and also conduct electricity. Oh, you know what? I have an old can of deoxit that I used on a guitar amplifier. Maybe that would work. So let's clean it up with that and see if we get any improvement. Okay, so this thing is solid now. I have it on that potentiometer, and it's not moving at all. Isn't that amazing? I mean, all I did was clean up the battery terminals and clean up that switching mechanism with the deoxit, and it's back in business. And I thought that I would just run a sort of non-scientific test against it. I ran a couple resistance values against a Fluke digital multimeter, and it came within 10%, 8.5%, and 4%. Not so good on the ohms. But on volts, I just, it has this mirrored scale here. You can really get a good eyeball on exactly what the value is. I took the battery and measured at 1.38 volts. And I put it on the Fluke, 1.379. I could not believe it. I was floored. Now that's, maybe that's just dumb luck. But that's within 0.1%. So this thing actually has some heft to it. I think I'm going to keep it. And the story seems to be that puddle of flux somehow got into the switching mechanism and made it erratic. Either that or some corrosion, who knows. But I'd like to think the story is that it was bought, they put a new battery in it, they put this Radio Shack battery into it, trying to maybe think that was the problem or something, and it's continued to be erratic, and then they just put it back in the packaging, and it sat there. And if this is from 1990, I mean, that's 28 years, this thing. So it's just interesting that we were able to do a few things there and get it back in business, and now it's essentially, it's sort of like new old stock. So anyway, it's back in business. So thank you for watching the video on this interesting Speco F-60.